so we're going to be going into, we completed Psalms, and we're going into Proverbs. Now, Proverbs is one of those books that you kind of, when I say you, I'm saying me, that I don't know if I'd spend too much time in. It's kind of interesting, but when I really went down and went through, hello Christine, hello Nancy, when I really started going through what some would consider, how are you? Good to see you. When I went over what are considered by many to be the most loved or best known Proverbs, I was surprised how many are part of our thinking in our culture today. So what I'd like to do with this one is we'll just start over here, and I'm going to give you Proverbs for you to look up, and then we'll go one after another. And after the person reads the Proverbs, I'd like you to just comment a little bit on it, what you think about it, if you think anything. And I'm particularly interested if you recall it as one of those things that are in kind of our normal language, our normal communication. So starting out with Karen, Proverbs 1:7, this Karen M. Next Karen, Proverbs 3:5, and Christine, Proverbs 4:3. Alan, Proverbs 14:12. And Proverbs 22:6.
Okay.
All right. And Proverbs 31:10. And there'll be some others that we want to take a look at, I'm sure.
Is that for Alice?
Pardon me?
Alice 31.
Yours?
No, it's Alice.
31:10.
Me.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, read it and then reflect on it. Well, not reflect, but tell us what you hear and what your reaction is, and has it really been something that has been part of your life, or you're aware of it? So many of these sounds so familiar.
You have the one for my mom.
Oh, I absolutely do. For Nancy, we always have an extra. So there you go. Okay, so Karen M. is going to start off with Proverbs 1:7.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Did you ever hear that one before?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
When I read the Proverbs, I kind of jump around.
Yeah, well, I think
But
most
I
people
do that
do.
with the Bible in general, which I probably shouldn't do. So the way I look at this, when you're young, you sometimes think in a different way. You don't have life experience. And then you gain wisdom along the way. And, if you're not obedient to the Lord, you will despise the wisdom and the instruction because you want to go your own way. You don't want to go take the right path.
Okay, good. Anyone else want to comment on that one? All right, let's just focus on one word. What is in this particular verse, what is fear in this verse? What does it really mean?
That's a good question.
It's what?
A good question.
Oh, okay.
To honor the Lord?
Okay. Anyone else? Does it mean to be afraid of him?
No.
I don't think it means that.
Respect.
Respect. I think that's the one that's the closest synonym to what this is really trying to say, is the beginning of knowledge. So it's saying that we really, if we don't open ourselves to understand that God is God and let Him rule the world, let Him rule our lives, we're not going to really learn a whole lot. Our lives aren't going to be fruitful. But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Well, how many of you here know of someone's been in your life, friend or relative, who really seemed to be despising wisdom and instruction? They just didn't want to listen to anyone.
They're all over the ballot.
That's where they're at.
You find them all over the ballot.
So those people, as you know, who can't follow direction, who can't be responsive to their bosses, their leaders, aren't going to be successful. They aren't going to fit into society too well because they're kind of marching to their own drumbeat, and they're marching the wrong direction.
I wanted to ask you too, Jim. What does wisdom mean? I mean, we have a lot of that word comes up a lot in the Bible. When you hear that word, what does the word mean?
Pastor Tom?
What?
So what do you think it means? Is it Pastor Tom?
Oh, it's embodied in me.
Are the bars open?
Yeah, here it is, John. Here it is, right over here. Yeah, it's an interesting word. It's not. I mean, what does that mean?
I kind of think of it as meaning truth in a way.
Yeah, clean truth, I think.
Truth.
Yeah.
Nothing is wise if it's a lie. I don't think.
Okay.
But a lot of people do not agree with that, we see.
Wisdom. When you hear that word, you know,
It's clean.
can you wrap your head around it?
Yeah, you can resonate, like, I agree with that. That's why I'm adding clean, clear truth, because everybody has their truth. But it's something you can receive when you have the heart of Christ. It comes so easily to hear and grasp what they're saying. You know?
So if you are connected to God and fear God or respect God, you might get to the place of seeing things the way they are.
Yeah.
Yes? No? Maybe? It's interesting. Yeah,
Can I
this stuff
ask,
is interesting stuff.
can I ask Cindy what she means by everybody has their own truth? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I've been.
What does that mean?
Well, God's
Sorry,
been teaching
Jim,
me that everybody.
No,
has their own truth
That's good
that they
discussion.
know
That's where we
is
want to
truth
go
to
with
them.
this. That's perfect.
Doesn't mean it's absolute Christ truth, but everybody has their truth, and they'll stand on that. That's what I've been learning lately. So you
I
can't
kind of
really.
disagree with that whole premise of truth is a truth. I don't
Yeah.
think there are alternative truths, but some people do.
Yeah,
But that,
yeah, the self.
I
you know,
understand.
Yeah, the human self. Yeah,
Well, does God have the truth?
yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to seminary. By the way, my classes were about this big too, so it reminds me of it a little bit. Of course, they sent me overseas not to be a part of this, but yeah, does God have truth?
He says he is
I mean, is
the
that
truth.
God is true.
He
a
is
position
the
of
truth,
yours?
so I think we can't deny that. If he says that. I am.
I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus says that. Yeah, John. Yeah, but I like to break this stuff down simple. Right? Does God inhabit the truth or not? Or is God as befuddled about things as we are? It's a good question. It's I think a legitimate question. And then does God, can God, and does God impart truth to people? I just like breaking it down.
Yeah.
And then what does a human being do once they get a truth from God? What do you do anything with it? I'm thinking about wisdom, the word wisdom now.
Accept it
You can accept it,
or deny it.
deny it. Do you do anything with it?
Adjust your life accordingly.
Adjust your life. It moves you to do something. Yeah, I always thought wisdom was knowing the truth and doing something about it. I like that. I like that. It may not be perfect, but in philosophy, the study of philosophy is the love of wisdom. That's what philosophy, love of wisdom. Anyway, I'm just blabbing. Sorry, Jim. It's Tuesday.
That's what we do. Okay, any other comments before we go on to the next proverb? Oh, Alice, the proverb for you is 15:1. When we get to you. Okay, now it's Karen J. will have bring us Proverbs 3:5.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight. I'm familiar with the first part of that.
You what?
I'm familiar, I've heard
Yes.
the first part of that. I'm not so familiar with the second part. Which proverb is that?
3:5.
Oh.
Could you read it again, Karen?
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight. It's sort of,
I think 6, the verse that follows it, fits in nicely too. Why don't you read that?
in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. It's connected to the one we just read, in way fools despise wisdom and instruction. And they're just saying it in a different way. If you rely on God, you'll do fine.
Is that true?
Not always, probably.
Anyone have thoughts on the phrase "and lean not on your own understanding"?
Yeah.
We're limited on
I've heard that before,
Yeah.
more than this. I mean, is that just in different wording, or is that in another place in the Bible somewhere? I don't know.
Which?
Well, he just read it, and lean not on your own understanding. It starts out as that, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and, yeah. Where are you reading that from?
5.
Oh, so you
3:5.
yours is worded differently than the one that we have.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
understand.
I'm sorry.
It's basically the same.
It's the
theme,
same one,
thing,
but
same thought, but it has.
Oh.
the wording in this instead
Well, give it
says,
to
and
us.
do not rely on your own insight.
Oh, okay.
So you were saying, have you heard that before? I heard the first part of it.
Yeah.
I heard the last part that you're reading, but it means the same thing, I guess. Do not rely on your own.
But we do, don't we? I mean, this is sort of rabbinic, welcome to the rabbinic world. You read the scriptures, it's fantastic, right? But they want a response from you, from me, from us. And if you were in the synagogue, this is what would happen. You get the reading, somebody would say something about it, and then you talk about it back and forth, right? To try to get some of your own meaning out of it. But so isn't that true? I lean on my own understanding, forgive me. I don't always know what God wants for my life. I mean, I take that by faith, but I don't see it. Not very often. Maybe I'm not seeking it, I don't know. But I lean on my understanding 99.9% of the time. How about you?
I do. Yeah.
I do to the point where do what I can, and then the rest is up to God.
Right, okay, all right. See how this works? We're in a synagogue now. See how
Yeah,
this works? It makes it interesting, right? Anybody else want to add to that? I want to say, how does one know what God wants? How do you get there? How do you, and how 100% is it? Can you give me the numbers to the lottery? That would, I guess, be good.
No.
How do we know that God knows what we want?
Right, there you go. Good question. Al?
As far as what God wants, you said one Sunday morning, you see how Jesus lived his life, do that.
I said that?
You did.
It was a good day.
That was a good
You
day.
said that.
That was a
And
good
I
day.
went, geez, like that.
Yeah,
See how he
and
lived his
that's not,
life, do that.
and that's not surefire either. And the other side, right, I don't presume that I know the mind and heart of Jesus. I don't presume that. And I also am not wild about where it goes, which would be a cross. You see what I mean? But I have these conversations all the time with myself and colleagues, and I want you to have them too. We're adults, right? We can handle this. And how do you find out what God wants? Maybe it's Jesus. What would Jesus do? Not that we've always known, but can we get an inkling of what he might do?
Yeah.
And then go and do likewise.
You can trust in the Lord with all your heart, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna have that understanding. You don't,
Right,
your understanding may not be
that's right.
what he's,
But if you have the heart of Christ, and truly understand what that is and know it, you're not able to do something that he doesn't want you to do. Not capable. I mean, in my life, I'm not capable of doing something he doesn't want me to do. I can't even sit at my desk unless he approves me sitting there. So a lot of people wouldn't want that life, because they want to do what they want to do.
Okay.
So a unique situation.
but what if your understanding isn't what God really wants?
I know, that's what
I
I'm
don't-
saying, if
I don't-
somebody, if people have the heart of Christ, which you get from reading the Word and understanding who Christ really is, of the love of God and what His purpose was here, you need to learn what that deception feels. It's high deception now, it's horrible. You get a sense of the Spirit to ask and pray 3 times to get and dissolve that deception, to actually you feel cleaner, you feel like the path is just open. And otherwise, it's like a brick wall goes up, or there's confusion, and confusion, a pastor told me many years ago, confusion's not about. If you're confused, rebuke the confusion and start over. So that's
Well, you're
all.
talking about certainty. How much certainty can a human being
Yeah,
have?
it's obedience, and I think it comes with time that, God taught me a lot through vitamins and vitamin shop. I go to get something and you go, oh, then you can't even get that off the shelf, that kind of thing. And I think it's just one decision after another, and you actually learn how to discern
Yeah.
on what that feels like to move forward and don't go there.
Yeah, see, I'm not anywhere close to that. Yeah, I have way more questions than I have answers, and
That's just
I don't.
what I can share, you know. each-
Yeah, sure, well, we're different, yeah. Yeah, uncertainty is, I live with that all day long. And yet you still have to act.
You have to trust.
You have to try, even though you don't have the picture, you don't know. You know, I don't presume to know.
But you have an understanding of what Christ's heart is.
A general understanding,
Yeah,
but I wouldn't dare say that I know the mind of Christ, nor the heart of Christ. I don't dare say that, because, and the reason I say that is throughout the Gospels, he's always tripping everybody up.
right.
Like, you shouldn't be with that person, you shouldn't be there, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't do that. So what would Jesus do? I think that's a good place to begin. But I don't know always what Jesus would do. Because he's quixotic. I don't always get him where he goes. I mean, if you do, God bless you, but I don't. I don't
And then when
presume
he
that.
trips up is a timing.
Well,
Like you
that's
spoke
too.
about the guy with the mat, right? So
Mhm.
why didn't he heal him the first time?
Mhm.
Because he
Right.
had more of a glory that he wanted to share than just with one person. Not to say that person isn't important.
Mhm.
So, his timing, I think, is to be obedient with his timing is huge, huge lessons.
Mhm.
Understanding his wise timing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Timing.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? It's a pretty good discussion. Thank you.
Can I share one story? There was a gentleman that was in a Bible study years ago with me, and he wanted to learn and understand at least how would you start. And I said, well, you walk in the mall? Yeah, I walk in the mall. So he had a hard time walking and stuff, and I said, well, when you walk, I said, you have to engage and say, Lord, tell me which direction to go. And he actually came back to me and said, I felt God telling me to go take a right over here and not to go straight.
That's specific, wow.
And I wanted to share that because that was instrumental for him moving forward and understanding, and he realized why, because God gave him peace on where he was going. So he felt just more positive and more of a clear understanding of what that sense feels like, But like you said, you have to ask, you have to trust God, you have to put it out there that you're willing to hear and understand. I mean, how many people do
Thinking
you
about
meet, they pray, and I said, well, you might as well pray to the wall. You don't think that there's someone listening and is constantly trying to talk to you. Why are you praying to begin with? They just pray like to the wall. They don't even know that somebody's there listening and wants to talk to them. Anyway.
I'm thinking about how much freedom does a human being have, even if they're connected to God. And so I'm going through the stories in the Bible and they have. Are we automatons? Are we, is that, that's a question that's been asked for thousands of years. Is God a marionette, person, and we're just marionettes, or do human beings make real decisions? Real human beings who want to follow God, do they still make real decisions that have real consequences?
That's where free will comes in.
Exactly. So, so how much of that's not going to be answered today, but it is worthy of pondering. Do you matter? In other words, does your life really matter? Or is it just a, are you just a marionette? If I'm a marionette, I'm out.
I don't think you're married.
I don't think so either.
I don't think I am either.
No, definitely not you, no.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to the next one. Christine? I had 4:3 there, that should have been 4:13, so read 4:13 and 14, chapter 4.
Cindy?
Proverbs.
Cindy? Cindy?
Cindy. Oh, I said Christine. All right. Cindy. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Proverbs 4:15.
13 and 14.
Keep hold of instruction. Do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the path or the way of evildoers.
What does that one say to you, Cindy?
Pardon? What'd you say?
Or what does that passage say to you?
I actually had a conversation, I don't know about that scripture, but it's similar to a friend of mine who's a pastor. We talked about you hold on to the direction you feel God's showing you until He tells you otherwise, or stops you, or and do not enter the path of the wicked. I mean, that's just a given. You know, if you have a heart of Christ, you're not going to. You could be tempted, but if you think of trusting God in the heart, then how can you actually do something that's bad? Not to say that everybody's perfect, but it's talking about the ways of the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a choice of doing that type of continually, right? So I guess now that I'm saying it, you continually go God's way unless, you just continually go God's way. You don't go the way of the wicked. It's a choice you make.
This whole section is headed by a general statement of get wisdom at any cost. And looking at this chapter and the commentator, that's what he wanted us to focus on. But when we look at 14 where it says, do not set foot on the path of the wicked or walk in the way of the evildoers, why would a father feel he has to warn the son about this? Why would the son want to go on the path of the wicked?
Temptation.
Okay.
What did you say, Maureen?
Or the daughter.
Or the daughter.
Well, daughters probably wouldn't.
Daughter would be a good person. Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Not so much.
Okay, well, I think, Alice?
Why would they enter the path of the
Yeah, why would
They're
the son
hanging
want to
out with their
walk on it?
friends, and that looks like fun, and they're hanging out with
Temptation.
Well, what is it? What is wickedness? What is it?
This didn't say wicked, it said evildoers.
Evildoers? Wickedness? What is that? You gotta break down the words, here. What is it to be wicked?
People who don't follow the Ten Commandments?
Okay, is that a question? Or is that a statement?
No, it's a statement, I think.
Okay, so if you're not following the 10 Commandments, you're wicked? I'm feeling kind of nervous.
I think God is trying to protect us.
Huh?
He's saying those statements to protect us, and don't go there because it's just going to get worse, and you're going to hurt yourself and possibly others.
Yeah, well, sure, but I'm wondering what that is. What is that? Can we recognize it? What is it? Well, Adolf Hitler, after World War II, after he blew his brains out, had a 65% approval rating in Germany. Did you know that?
After
After.
he lost the war and everything.
Yeah. Wrap your head around that one. Well, he couldn't wrap his head around it because he didn't have one. But it's saying something, isn't it?
It's a little scary.
Isn't that is profound to me. I've never forgotten that.
It's scary.
Are you?
Considering that today there is a large segment of American people who have a 65% approval of Hitler.
Right. Well, you see.
That's
Well, you see
what's so scary
swastikas
about that.
in
Scary.
right. I mean, yeah, it's growing. There's no question it's growing. But you see that also in Hungary. You see it in France. You see it in China. You see it in North Korea. It's all over the place. This
It's a
following of
world
evil.
Evil.
Yeah, and what do you get from that? If you follow evil, what's, as John Calvin would say, what's the benefit? What are you getting from it?
You feel like
He
you're
says
included.
death.
You're included.
Right.
Okay, good one. Anybody else? Why would you do it?
Gives you power.
Gives you power, sense of power. Good, great.
Feel good?
Makes you feel good.
Fear.
They
Fear.
join because of fear.
Yeah.
They want to follow because of fear.
I think it goes.
What are they afraid of?
Well, they're afraid if they don't follow, somebody's gonna get them.
Okay, so it's like a, all right,
You know,
so it's like the blood that crips, you know?
Certain people will follow because of fear.
All right, well, what
It
else,
goes
what,
back to the first scripture of truth. That's what they think truth, they follow it because they think that's truth.
we're on the right track, we're,
Yes.
okay, all right, that's good, yeah, that's good, yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of really good people that follow evil. We see that with the Lutherans in World War II, we see it with the Catholics in World War II, and I'm talking about Germany. No question about it. Those are big, the Pope during that time was Ian and Han with Germany, right? If you know your history. And there's something about evil that is really attractive. Satan is an angel of
Light.
thank you.
Oh, they refer to him as that, the angel of light?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
yeah.
I think people are also looking to be led.
Good one.
Looking to
They're
what?
looking to be led.
To be led.
Yeah, they're looking,
it's
I
so
agree.
true.
They're looking for
Yeah.
strong leadership.
Yeah.
And they look past
They can't do it on their own.
all the horrible things that were done
Yeah.
to achieve that strong leadership. But
Anyway,
we
this
see
one,
those, wherever there's a leadership vacuum, there's gonna be, people are gonna come up through the system that shouldn't be there.
or I thought too, like, I've been thinking about Presbyterians lately, Jim.
Oh,
The
that
pres-
warms my heart.
Isn't that something? And here's the thing about Presbyterians and Reformed Church people are like this too. It used to be. We have a book of church order. In our denomination, we call it the Orange Book. A book of church order. And what we do when you enter as a pastor, you say, I'm going to be faithful to that order. It's about that thick. I just threw it away. Well, I'm retiring. I don't need, it's still in my garbage bin. This is what I'm thinking about. And Presbyterians are just like that too. So we give ourselves to this order, not to a person, right? And it's like when you join the military, or police officers do this too, and others, members of Congress. They give. What do you call it? They accede to the Constitution. You see where I'm going with this? It's not to a person. It's to an order. This is how we do things, and I will protect that no matter what. That's hard to do. When you think about it, it's a lot easier to follow a person than a thing, a document. Don't you think? I do. I think that's what. And I think the whole world is slipping into that. we have bylaws here that we're faithful to or try to be, not to the person. Not, it's a way, not a, it makes sense a little bit?
Okay, shall we go on to the next proverb? Think you have that one? Was it 4:12
14.
or 14?
Just for weeks. It's fun.
There is a way that seems right to a person, but its end is the way to death.
You picked that one, Joe?
No, it's one of the favorites. I look for the favorites, the one that people really, but the idea that there's a way that appears to be right.
Which one is that now?
14:12.
14:12.
Read it again, this is disturbing.
Today, it's really disturbing. There is a way that seems right to a person, but in its end is the way to death.
Yeah,
I see that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It appears.
I see it today, especially. I see that.
Seems right to me. But it leads to death.
Yes, and it will, I think. If it happens.
Election day.
Specifically today.
And the danger in that is that it appears right.
Appears right.
Every
To millions of
indication
people.
is that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Appears right.
And it applies to a lot of different things, not just elections.
Whoa, sure.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Lynn, did you have something to say? Lynn, did you have something to say?
No, I'm looking for, about you sitting on the edge of the roof.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I'm looking for another proverb that I forgot to look up this week.
You're a little hoarse today.
Yeah.
We won't ask you to say too much then.
Yeah, that seems right. It seems right to do that. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, let's go fishing. Let's go fishing today. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, there's an ad, I think it's insurance ad, where it's parody on the teenage movies where they're being stalked by
Yeah.
somebody with
Yeah, I love that.
chainsaw.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah?
Right, that's a good one.
Yeah, tell them what happened.
Sit under the chainsaw.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to jump into a car that's already running. We want to go into the garage
Yeah.
where all the chainsaws are.
300, a couple of dozen chainsaws standing, and
It's a
the
cute.
evil guy, you know, the guy is just shaking his head like, you dummies.
He's just rolling his eyes, right? He's rolling his eyes.
The way appeared right. Right. Okay, any other thoughts on that? Have you heard that one? Does that one ring a bell?
Not for a long time. I haven't
We,
read this for a
we need to ring the bell. What happens sometimes is these sound familiar because of another verse in the Bible. And I think well, you know, when we come to those, it kind of rings true because it sounds like another one that we know. So you kind of think you heard it before when you necessarily didn't. All right, how about,
Can I add just one thing?
yes, please, Cindy.
To me that when you think you're right, you
Okay,
shut down all the doors and windows, as you might say, to listen to somebody else's opinion because you are set on you think you're right. And I think that's what could lead to death because you're you're just on this path and
it's a good description.
you trip on that and things change and like, well, that could have been right in the beginning. And then things change because everybody makes different choices. And all of a sudden you get here and you go, no, I know I'm right, and you're not really seeing the truth around them, and that's what probably ends up.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought. whenever we're having discussions with people and we're on two opposite ends of that discussion, it's so easy, the person is saying things and your mind just kind of goes, you're thinking, well, I've got this gotcha, I'm gonna really bang them with this one when they're done talking. And so we lose all the value of the different input coming to you. And the only discussions that I think are worthwhile is when I'm able to take away enough from it to say, that's changed me a little bit. You know, that's tempered my opinion or the direction I'm going.
Because
I have-
everybody has different experiences they can add, life decisions, life experiences, ends and beginnings, you know.
Yeah, nothing is more frustrating to me when someone hears or you're expressing something that's pretty good and apropos for discussion, but they totally disregard it. They don't even acknowledge it. You know, at least say back to them what you said to them so we know that you heard what I just said. That's not the way you can go, because it will appear right. But how do you go from appear to make sure you're right? It's getting additional information. That's so important.
Yeah, tolerance.
Is there a proverb that
tolerance.
says there are always two sides to every problem?
That's right.
Isn't that, I
don't
always
think
heard that, I've always
I
said
don't,
that.
I don't know,
There are
and I
two
don't know if that's
sides.
true, and I don't know if that's
I
true.
don't
I don't
know
know, I mean, does Adolf Hitler have his side and it's
Yeah.
legitimate? I don't think it's always true. I don't. I think some people are just completely wrong and evil. Now you may go back in time and say, well, poor little Adolf, you know, he wasn't treated very well by his father and all that. You can understand the origins, but that does not take you to a place where you say, we all have a side that's legitimate. And right, you see what I mean?
Oh, I
You gotta
agree.
tease that out, but I think you're right, Jim. You know, tolerance is so important. These are extreme examples, Adolf Hitler, you know, so on. But for the rest of us, hopefully, tolerance is so important to move our own lives forward. It doesn't mean that we don't have our worldview or a faith or you know what we stand on. It doesn't mean you jettison that, but it's important. I met communists in Amsterdam. I mean, real communists. And I am so glad I did, because what we shared a lot of meals together. They wouldn't even see me because I was an American at first. Wouldn't even see me. And we all learned from each other, you know, as far as, you know, the collective, how important the we is. You've heard me talk about it. It's from that family. I get that. That any society has to have a good we, and we have to have a good I. Both are important for a good society. And I came to that from those dinners. But it took tolerance on everybody's side to be able to relax. Let's relax, let's smoke a couple cigarettes. Communists love cigarettes. I don't know, I want Lyall to be like that.
Like
So
to
we
hear
can
without-
work it out, you know.
Like
Let's
to
work.
hear without judgment. You know, like sometimes I'll say something to somebody and I'll say, there's no judgment here, this is a thought that I had.
Yeah.
Or they're saying something and you listen without judgment.
Well, yeah, I think there's a place for judgment, but it's got to be soft.
Right.
It's got to be gentle.
Because otherwise the person's going to think you're not even paying attention.
Exactly.
You're shutting them down, you're not
Yeah.
listening to them
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, look at Jesus with the Pharisees. You know, he's tough on them sometimes, but often it's okay. You know, let's have a meeting of the minds here. They are not very tolerant. But he is. You know.
Or he's tolerant of the sinner, but he's not tolerant of the Pharisees, which is interesting.
He does not like clergy very much, Jim.
He just gets under his skin.
Oh my God, I'm never going to make it.
Okay.
He's prejudiced against clergy. I know he is.
We're just jealous. Huh?
No, don't be jealous.
Proverbs 22:6.
1, 2, 6, that's me. Okay. Train children in the right way, and when old, they will not stray. It's a poet.
Wishful thinking.
Okay.
I've heard that a lot.
Boy.
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot too. Yeah.
There is some influence there, if you've got a good parent. But it isn't always true. Less likely to stray. Less likely, okay.
So most of us have heard that. Start children the way it says in the NIV, start children off in the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. How do you react to that?
That's not always true.
All right, okay.
It's what?
That's not always true.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
mean, they may go through their life doing everything right, and then they might come to a point where they have a change of heart or mind and go the other way.
Yeah, we see a lot of that.
I would say my parents would say, I have not followed the path.
You haven't?
No, not in their mind. They didn't train me to do this. No way. No way. I was a failure. Absolute failure to both my parents in this way. I mean, I was loved, and I know that, but this was not at all what I should be doing. It's a complete waste of time.
Or as your mother said, you'll get over
We'll
it.
get over it. Like, what a waste of a fine mind, she said that too.
Well, maybe you weren't trained in the right way. It's this, it says, train your children in the right way, and when they get old, they won't stray. But what if they're not trained in the right way?
Well, my parents would say that I was trained in the right way, and this is the wrong way.
But is their way the right way?
Well, I know, we'd have fun.
Helen's
We'd have fun with
point
all
is
that. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, are these proverbs, and now we're going to talk about the literature, right? The literature part of this little course. Are the proverbs promises? I mean, can you take a proverb, like we just did, and we said not always, are they designed to be promises? Like, yes, they are. You can bet the bank on these things.
I don't think they are.
Right? They're not. I don't think they are either. Okay, so
They're sort of a guideline.
okay, all right. Now
Just
we're-
like you say with the Ten Commandments. I mean, not everybody follows that to a T, somewhere along the line. But it's a guide to people.
Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting. Okay, and now we're talking literature. You can, right? You got that in your head now. So because some people, and I know them personally, they read Proverbs, and that is a lock. That's the way it is. And then you have to turn yourself into a Gumby and commit intellectual suicide in order to make these fit. I don't think God wants us to commit intellectual suicide.
I
Right?
see your point.
Right?
You're asking the literature to do more than it was intended to do.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. It's not designed for a promise. It's designed for a
Guidelines.
guideline.
Guideposts.
And I think for me that suggests interaction. Then you have to interact with it,
Thinking,
right?
giving you ideas.
Exactly. It should be expansive. Now, let me ask you this then. All right, so if the Proverbs aren't that, are there any promises in the Bible where you say, that's it?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Do any come to mind?
I'm thinking of the covenants.
Yeah. With Abraham?
Yes,
Yeah.
Abraham in
Me too.
particular.
Presbyterians are fabulous. I mean, we know this stuff. That's what I was thinking too. Right? The Abrahamic covenant?
Yeah.
Well, Jim was trained up in the way he should go.
That's right. Here he
He's
is.
not straight.
See, here he is. Right.
I always took, I mean, Tom is bursting my bubble here, but I always took great comfort in that statement, in the thoughts of my children. Because children, when they're teenagers, I mean, you know, they just have their way of doing things, all these emotional outbursts and everything. And, you know, it's so easy to condemn your children rather than cut them some slack. And I think a lot of, in some Christian families, that becomes a real hindrance. Because people say, oh, they were, you know, we don't know how those kids went bad, their parents raised them up so right. But I think back at a church we attended where there was a guy, he was a contractor, a big guy. You know who I'm talking about.
No.
Yeah, you know, he was head of a small group that, yeah, I'm really good on names right now.
I'm with it.
I think I need an infusion of youth blood or something. But his son was a real disappointment because he had, you know, he was on every elder board and, you know, a leader and a big presence, a good giver. And their son just was doing all kinds of bad things. You know, it got to the point where, I mean, they almost couldn't talk to each other. But the man died. This is all 10, 15 years ago. And over time, the son started to get his life in order. You know, the first thing he did, or one of the things that was unforgivable to Jim.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, now you know. Was that, you know, he sired a child out of wedlock.
The father or the son?
Good question. Jim was a big disappointment. But I noticed that over the years it was getting more and more, and after his father died, he really started to reconsider his life. And now he's you know, he's an elder in that church. And his father would have been so proud to have that happen. But I saw the full circle in that with Tim, was the son's name, Tim. Those names are slowly seeping into my mind here. And Tim had a lot to offer. Very articulate, you know, kind of a charming person. But he always had this side of him that his father just couldn't agree with. And his father looked at this, and I'm sure he treated it as a promise. But in a way, it was a
promise for
him. So these things happen, but it's important to understand that God is going to direct things if we trust Him, you know. And I'm glad I don't think Jim was really mean to his son, was he, to Tim? But it was just kind of cut him off. And Jim owned some businesses, so I think Tim was involved in some of those. He wanted him to take over all those businesses. That was his dream. And it was just interesting how that worked. Okay, I think
Can I just...
please.
I want you to be haunted by a question. And that is, are there any promises from God? Are there any promises we have from God?
Like life after death?
Well, okay.
Is unconditional love?
Unconditional love. What can you really stand on?
Is love?
God's love.
There are unconditional covenants, so I would say yes on that basis.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to say any more about it, but take that home. Is there anything you can trust from God? That's a promise.
I feel He always wants the best for us. It's just we have to figure out that God sees more than we do. Yeah, we might not think it's the best at the time, but he sees all, you know.
Well, maybe where some people get messed up is that there are conditional covenants too, or conditional promises. If you do this for me, if you honor me, then I will do this for you. And it is a two-way street in that respect. So that, but your question is a good question. It depends on, I think, what you're really calling a promise.
What about when he says things like, "Lo, I will be with you always, even to the end of the world," or
Yeah.
you know, is that a promise? Or is
Yeah.
that a, yeah.
I consider that a promise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought that was a promise.
Yeah.
When Christ is saying things emphatically, I take it as a promise, and I think he wants us to.
Mhm.
I am
That's
the
where
way,
we
the
get the
truth.
comfort.
I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Mhm.
I think of his promise to the other man on the cross. This day you will be with me in
Yeah,
paradise.
okay. I promise I gotta get you home. Yeah. Must have felt good to hear that.
Okay, and who has Proverbs 31:10?
Me. Good one to end on. A capable wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. Capable
No, I-
husband,
yeah.
say.
So, what do you think about that thing?
True that's true.
It's true. I wasn't going to include that, but Lynn said if I wanted to get dinner tonight, I better. So,
I was just gonna say that you've got something more precious than jewels.
well, that's true. Can't deny that.
We read that at funerals, that whole section.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, that's very common at funerals.
The epilogue of
I've heard that
noble
before,
character.
too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's empowered. If you read through there, I mean, she's buying a field, considers buying a field.
That's right. Well, he's pontificating at the city gate, right?
Right. Yeah, my girl buys property, man. In that day and age, that was unheard of. She's got her own business. She's in the girdle business. Yeah, she's making some money. My girl, that's why maybe he's at the gate. He doesn't have to work. Nice.
All right, so no one's disagreeing with that proverb. And everyone here is saying that's probably as close to a promise as you can get. So. Alice,
Yeah.
could you read your proverb?
Which is,
Excuse me?
which one? 3110 looks like the last one.
Oh, I never gave you one.
That's
All right, I know what I was going to do. It's an interesting section. Well, you know what? It's late in the hour, as the siren has told us. So why don't we just close it there? Because I think we've got that. Proverbs provides us with a lot of information. We'll do a quick, very quick look at Song of Solomon. And Song of Solomon, if you read it.
Let's do it next week, Jim.
Yeah,
We'll give it some time.
Okay.
Yeah, give it time. Yeah.
that's a,
Okay.
That's a very sensuous.
Aaron, you can't talk like that in the sanctuary.
It is.
If you read it and understand its figurative language, it will be exactly what Karen said.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna be here for that.
All right.
Single.
Who's leading this discussion?
Yeah, Jim, it's all yours.
Who's leading this discussion?
I'm gonna get all overheated.
So what do you cover after I finish this? 10-minute section?
The
What are we going into?
prophets.
Prophets, okay. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really fun, interesting.